All right, we are live. How you doing today, Jace?
I'm doing good. How are you doing, John?
I'm doing good. I couldn't wait for today to come to do this with you because I last week when I saw the news, I was like, you've got to be the synchronicity of really the platform that we really want to primarily talk about because we feel like the opportunities are going to be that's where the opportunity is going to lie and moving forward, especially with the utility of the Ripple network
Yeah.
and system and platform. And I just saw it, and I started to laugh because I was like, Jace got to be like going like, all right, here we go, because it was so I couldn't wait for today to come. But
So what did you
but
see? What did you see synchronistically? What did you come
no,
across?
about that we were talking about XRP and and the Ripple platform, and then last week with the SEC with the news that started to come around the bend, and it was like just right, 5 or 6 days before we were gonna come back on,
Yeah.
and I had a something else I wanted to talk, not something else, but so I was gonna go into some other topics, but I really feel that when that's going on, I think. A lot of the people out there that you don't really know, is that a good thing, is it a bad thing? I know it looks good, but then there's appeals, and I know the SEC's been on like on Ripple's ass with this, but they keep losing
Yeah.
because they're just like wrong.
Yeah.
And and then as it comes to fruition, and you see, well, no, that was denied, so Ripple was right. They didn't, they didn't say it was a security, or it was whatever they keep trying to throw at them.
Yeah.
So I just thought that we did our inaugural show and talking about the Ripple platform and XRP and some of the others that go along with it, and then that happening like literally days before we were going to talk about go back on
Yeah.
live to give information out. But so I just thought it was I thought it was real cool, and it was funny because when you sent me when we corresponded and you were like, did you see the news? I was just like, yeah, I couldn't believe it. It was great.
And you know
But
what's crazy? Well, you know what's shady too about the SEC? I mean, obviously there's a lot of shady things about the
oh,
SEC, but that case you're talking about, SEC v. Ripple, it ended, right? And like you're saying that the judge basically gave the majority of the win to Ripple. Like they only had to pay a small, very small fee relatively to the SEC. But the SEC, everyone was wondering, are they going to appeal it? Are they going to appeal it?
mhm.
The date went by, no appeal for the deadline for the appeal. And then the day after the deadline, they submit a document and backdate it before the deadline. And it's like, is that even
I
legal?
think,
Is that allowed?
yeah,
Like,
yeah. And you figure that they've been really they've been a pain in a butt to Ripple for how long now, right?
yeah,
And so it's on the forefront on whoever's telling them to kind of go after this platform.
yeah,
Which always makes me think that Ripple's doing something right when you got people coming after you like that. But
yeah,
all that's happening, and you're telling me they couldn't get it on, they couldn't get it in within the deadline. They had to do a back date, one of these little finagle things that they do.
yep,
It's crazy. But
yeah,
I just let's want to welcome everybody whoever joins us today, and then watches afterwards. We'll be on a couple of different platforms, and we'll put everything in the description below because I really want to jump in. But welcome to the Deep Dives in the Desert channel, and this is the Crypto Corner series with John and Jace. And Jace has his Cosmic Origins and Conscious Crypto. And he has just an amazing crypto course, and that's how I was introduced to Jace and got to know him and his lovely wife. But Jace in particular, very very impressive with the knowledge he gained in crypto and the way he delivers it. So again, we'll have a link for his program as well. And again, me being in my early 50s, although I know I look about 30, but but no, but me being in my 50s and really not knowing, coming from the investment world, but not knowing anything about crypto, he delivers a great program that's real easy to learn and really dig in and really take advantage of some of the opportunities out there in today's in some of today's best opportunities with crypto and how to protect yourself. But what we'll do is I just want to also mention or any one of you guys who sent in some comments, regardless, positive, negative. I haven't seen really anything negative, but we take it all in, and it's a learning experience for us. But I do appreciate some of the comments out there, and also I wanted to shout out to Anna, who actually wrote in, Jason. What she was specifically interested in was staking, and she didn't have a specific question, but it's probably on the subject as probably general, and maybe how she can maybe you may be able to connect the dot for her where she can go in and look to do, and maybe stay away from maybe a pitfall or two. But we will hit on that, Anna. And again, anyone who any questions you have, I'll look at those, and if we can't address it during a show, the following show we will definitely have that addressed and have something in there for you. So again, we appreciate anyone who watches the show, because what we're really trying to do is deliver some simplistic ways to understand and actually take actionable steps to take advantage of these opportunities. But it's really not a simplistic thing. Again, that's where Jace really shines, because he takes these complex techniques or a complex landscape, and really he boils it down to where you go, oh, really? That's it? That's all you have to do? And then when you start doing it, you realize, wow, that's okay. So he just really boiled it down and really streamlined it and made it easy for us. So that's some of the things that we know. You're welcome. You deserve way more. I could talk about 2 hours on how you do things, Jace. I have a lot of respect for you.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that. I'm just sharing out the link right now on my socials too, so other people can join in on the
awesome. Yeah. So we're out on some of the other socials. And as I do more of these, I'll get better. And Chase is bearing with me with this, so I appreciate it. But we will get into a little bit, with the SEC case, and kind of, narrow down some of the things on where you can see some investment opportunity for yourself. Although, we don't give investment advice, we just want to put it out there. So if you do make any decisions, you're making it from, at least you're getting 100% of the correct information, so you can make the best decision for yourself, and move forward. So and knowing that this landscape changes, right? I mean, this landscape changes not only daily, but throughout every day. There's some things happening. So we're happy to be there with you and kind of talk you through it. So
and real quick on that note, with how quickly the landscape changes, I think one of the questions I get a lot from new people is, how involved do I need to be? Do I need to focus on my crypto portfolio all day, every day? Because they see a lot of people doing that, right? And I think it's important for new investors to understand that it's basically whatever you make it. It can be a super passive thing. You can put your investments in your wallet, in your portfolio, put it to the side and not think about it and let it do its thing. Or you could make it something that is your new hobby or your new day job, in a way where you're interacting with it all day, every day. But like you said, the markets are really volatile in crypto compared to traditional markets. And there's advantages and disadvantages with that. So just something to be aware of for viewers.
Yeah. And when you look at let's just take a hedge fund, if everything just is staying, kind of stagnant, they're trying to capitalize on maybe there's some passive things they can do, but what they really want is the markets to move. So markets that are moving, whether it's up or down, that's how you really can make money, if when you're looking at it every day. But again, there are different ways you can do. If you're doing some passive income, you can let it go. But I'll just, just for me being kind of newer in it, that's exactly what you said is how I wanted to kind of set it and forget it and just, put it in. But then I realized, as I started to move into it and learn more and start to go through a couple more of the videos and then you start to have multiple, wallets, and you're on a couple of different exchanges. But then it's so much fun to watch. So you wake up, you look, and you see what you're doing. You're seeing what's out there, what's performing, and you can kind of move in and out of some, and it's very easy to do. You could move, kind of in and out multiple times a day. So there's so many ways you could do it. And like you said, whatever you like doing, if you like some action, awesome. If you want to just, kind of set it, set it and forget it for a little bit, and you can just kind of gauge it and every few days, or just watch what's happening. But you can really, it runs the gamut. You can do whatever you'd like. Like I said last time, I got the bug, and that crypto bug, man. And every time I got a notification, I was up looking at it, then reading on the different, the coins. So it's and I know it's an exciting thing to do, and you're protecting yourself, moving some of your assets outside the traditional means of investment. So with that being said, Jace, we'll jump in and let's get that. I think the 800-pound gorilla in the room is probably what they're seeing on the news, and they especially with XRP, with the Ripple platform, since that's what we're really our focus is. What is some of the what are going to be some of the ramifications of some of the news that have come out with the SEC? Where do you see it ending? And when it does, what are the opportunities you think that'll come from it? Why do you think it may go up, or there's something we may need to sit and watch and see if it moves? What do you think will happen?
Yeah. So my understanding of what's going on right now is the lawsuit is over in the traditional sense, but like we were saying, the SEC seems to have filed that appeal, which was pretty expected. Like everybody in the community pretty much knew that was going to be coming, because at this point we're in lawfare in so many different regards, with the elections and everything else. So they're going to fight as hard as they can, right, on both sides. So that appeal was submitted, it seems. And from what I heard from the Ripple team, it seems like that'll only push the case out to maybe like spring of 2025, from what I heard. I could be wrong about that, but it doesn't seem like it's going to be another multi-year saga, which is a good thing. And as of this point, the law of the land from the judge in the case is that XRP is not a security when sold on the free and open market. They only declared it as a security when Ripple was doing private sales of XRP to institutional investors in that specific circumstance. But as a whole, as a free market, item, it's a commodity. That's the law of the land. And XRP and Bitcoin are the only two crypto assets that have full legal clarity in the United States, which is a big deal, because there's like thousands of different cryptos. XRP and Bitcoin are some of the biggest ones. Bitcoin's obviously the biggest. XRP has used to be the second biggest, but now it's kind of in the top 5 and moves around. But yeah, I think that depending on how this November goes, and in about a week when we see what goes down with the big E, I think that will tell us a lot more about how the next few months are going to go, because so much of that is up in the air right now. Because of the different takes on crypto regulation. And that's what's been the hardest thing in the space as a crypto investor, is that this current admin that we've had for the last 4 years in the US, and Gary Gensler, who Biden appointed to be the head of the SEC, just done total warfare against crypto, and they've selected certain other cryptos to be their chosen projects, like Ethereum, that they've given free passes. So there's actually a new documentary coming out, I think in about a week. It's an XRP documentary, and they're doing live shows all around the country. They sold out super fast. And then I think it's going to be on Netflix after that, but it's called XRP Unleashed. And it's a professional documentary. I don't know if you heard about this, but
I have not.
This is going to be exciting for the average person. We'll be able to share it on here with the watchers and people who are, not caught up with this whole saga. This is going to catch them up. And it includes the corruption with what's called Ethereum Gate, ETH Gate, they call it, which is, So this is, I won't get too deep into it. I'll let the documentary do the talking, but basically it's this idea that Ethereum, the Ethereum Foundation, which runs the Ethereum cryptocurrency, basically was given a free pass by the SEC to do things that they then went after other cryptocurrencies and projects like XRP and Ripple for.
Wow.
Yeah.
That
So
sounds familiar. What they,
yeah,
you said, wow.
well, and here's the kicker too. So I heard yesterday, I think it was just yesterday, Trump said that he might have to put tariffs on non-US cryptos, meaning he wants to, and I don't even know how that would work because crypto is decentralized and they would have to do it in an interesting way from the exchanges maybe. But he said that especially Chinese cryptos, they would want to put a tariff on to encourage American, production in the
Right.
market. So Ripple is an American company,
Yeah.
right? XRP was made in America. This documentary, I think, is going to expose Ethereum as a Chinese controlled currency, which means Ethereum and potentially Bitcoin could be lumped in there too. The two top cryptos right now could
To
get
be
massive
locked off.
tariffs on them, which
Yeah.
would really shift things and I think cause a lot more people to flood into XRP as well from that social perspective.
Yeah. Well, because that's going to raise, the fees, the fees that they'll get hit with, you know how much it would be to buy a Bitcoin?
Yeah.
That'd be crazy.
Those two projects are already super expensive from the
Yep.
fee standpoint. Like, you were talking about earlier with crypto, you can move in and out, it's
Mhm.
XRP, it's cheap to move in and out of it because the
Yeah.
fees are less than a penny. But when you're using Ethereum and Bitcoin, those, if you move $50 of Ethereum, you could get hit with a $50 fee, which is just ridiculous, right?
Yep.
So they cater to the big money and not everybody.
Yeah. And you want to know what, that's one thing that, when you jump in, and again, it's mostly because of excitement when you start to move into, learn about it and move into the investment. And what you don't realize is that you have to be cognizant of the fees. And I again, someone who's I've been in it for a while, which is why I like to bring it up. Although it's like we know it's common sense, but it's really not, because you're what's happening is you get so entwined in the coin and reading on it and looking at a chart or looking at this and trying to compare this and that. And there's so many things you're doing because you're not, kind of subconsciously competent with it, where you're on autopilot, you could just move through it. So you're thinking about every A, B, C, so with your conscious mind that you're not even looking at what the fees are. You're just kind of blowing through it. And, it worked. I bought it. Holy cow. That's what you're excited about.
Yeah.
So it really is. It's a great point to bring up, is when you're doing that, be cognizant of the fees when you're looking at anything, because it really is important to help. That's your profit that's going to get cut into, right? So that's something you want to look into. So let me ask you, as far as that going on with the Ripple platform, with at the SEC and what's happening, the other cryptos that we like to couple with it, right? The say Corium, the Solargenic, and I know you talk about Stronghold is something that
Stronghold, XLM as well. That's
XLM,
the big sister.
Stellar Lumens, right?
Yeah, yep.
Yeah. So what with that? How do those get affected with this, or is it just specifically to XRP?
So the SEC Ripple case is specifically XRP, but that case affects the whole market because it sets the standards. It sets the standards for how, these projects and these currencies are going to be regulated in the future. And that reminds me real quick before I forget, Trump also said that he's going to probably make crypto tax free because it is a currency and not, that's what one of his advisors told him. It's a currency. It's not an investment. It's its own currency. So it shouldn't have tax. So that's a big deal too. But yeah, XLM is the kind of sister project to XRP. It's sort of competition in a way, but sort of part of the same ecosystem. Basically, one of the founders of Ripple and XRP, Jed McCaleb, he broke off because of supposed disagreements between him and the team. And he basically copy and pasted the code for the XRP ledger and created the Stellar Lumen, which is the XLM token. And it's essentially identical to XRP in every way. Slight differences, but it's essentially the same thing. And so it's intimately tied in culturally, socially in the market to XRP. So XRP is kind of, in the big picture right now, everything follows Bitcoin. Typically, when Bitcoin goes up, the whole market goes up. When Bitcoin, and that's just the way the market works because of the market caps and the dynamics. XRP is kind of the same way for its own ecosystem, where when XRP moves, those other coins like we were talking about, XLM, Solo, Core, Stronghold, they all tend to move in response to XRP. So this is one of those things, if you're like a trader and you wanted to kind of time that, you can look at when, say, Bitcoin first moves or when XRP first moves, and you can kind of conclude, okay, these other, tokens are about to move in volatility as well, and you can kind of prepare yourself for it. But as far as the case, it's specifically for XRP. It's just kind of socially it affects, the whole space.
And so every time the SEC loses, how much of do we see a bump that day with XRP usually, or is it like does it take a minute before we see it?
With the SEC, when there has been major news, like for instance, I think it was last July 2023. It was like, I want to say it was like July 7. That's when I think the judge first came out and declared XRP as not being a security in the open market. Even though the case wasn't over, it was just the judge saying that. And that created like a 30% jump in the chart within an hour. Within 5 minutes, it was like a 15-20% jump. And then within an hour. And then over the course of the next year, from July to July, 23 to 24, it came down and it kind of, it found its way back to that original price. And so this has been one of the things, is that the price has been, I think, artificially suppressed in many ways. I think the markets in general, as you probably know, there's a lot of market manipulation in all markets, right?
Oh yeah.
And crypto is the same way, for good and for bad. I think it's, good actors, bad actors, but there's AI trading bots and all these things. So I think that's part of what's been going on with XRP, for good or for bad, that there's been this price suppression. And so these big stories like the SEC winning the case should have created, a bull run like we've seen with Bitcoin. XRP never had its real bull run this past couple of years like Bitcoin and the other cryptos did. So I think there's manipulation going on there, but I think it's also this effect where when you push a spring down repeatedly over and over, the further you push down that spring, or the further you pull back that rubber band, the further it's going to snap in the other direction, right? So the longer this happens, I think the bigger that jump is going to be. And we saw that in 2017 going into 2018 over New Year's was when XRP was the best performing asset on the planet. So it went from less than half of a penny in price to $3.80 within a 2-week period.
Oh, wow.
Right. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. Talk about creating millionaires.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I'm sure a lot of millionaires were created there, but like hardly anybody knew about it back then. I didn't know about it back then. I got in 2020. And so we haven't even seen that price level again. It hasn't returned to those all-time highs. And it's been, what is that, like almost 7 years?
Yeah, so nowhere close, right? I mean, it hasn't approached the dollar yet. It went up in the 60 cents, right? 60s maybe.
Yeah, but in 2021, I believe, might have been 22. It went to $1.80. It touched $1.80, and then it came back down, and that was the highest we got since 2018.
So so not even 50% of its all-time high.
Exactly. Yeah, which from a technical analysis standpoint tells you that there's a lot more opportunity and room for it to move. The longer that's suppressed, it's like, I think the closer we're going to get to getting another moment like that, where it could go thousands of percentage points in,
that'll be some pump. And you do see that, especially with, obviously you could see with stock, because you could see how the big guys, the BlackRocks and all that, you could see what they do when they move in and they kind of suppress. But it was really interesting in moving from, the markets that I was in the, as a financial advisor, when I moved into precious metal, I could not understand why it wasn't moving the way it should have been moving, from, even like 2020. And it was crazy, because there was everything that would make either gold or silver move right? Because gold is like the Bitcoin, say, right? Because when gold goes, silver follows. They have a ratio, and
Yeah.
but things would happen. Interest rates go up, the market goes down, gold should move up, or the dollar weakens, gold should move up, and it wasn't. And what was really interesting is then when you find out what they're doing with the short contracts,
Mm.
and they suppress silver, and they were suppressing it to a point where they were literally, JP and BOA, B of A, Goldman, all of them. What they were doing so many short contracts, it was way above what the regulators said from the CSEC, right, the Commodities Securities and Exchange Commission.
Yeah.
So no one stopped them. So they were doing so many tens of thousands of contracts, and then when it came time to cover the shorts, they just leased it to like Bank of America, and then they leased it to, and then who was buying it, right? The people like, say, you and I, who are retail buyer of it, we're looking at it and we're saying, wow, this should have went up. If it didn't go up, something's got to be wrong. Let me sell it. But meanwhile, they were buying the hell out of it.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like, it reminds me, that these things, like, we couldn't even call gold an investment, because we had to say, own or take a position in, because it's more of a currency. You can go and, use this currency. So it really rang a bell when you said, why the guy told Trump, we shouldn't tax it because it's a currency.
Yeah.
And so it's very similar. I think the two things, but yeah, it's just there's a lot of similarities to it, and I feel like that's what's really being attacked the most, kind of mainstream, and then, but the people who are attacking it the most are the people who are making the massive buys of it right now, but telling us or showing us that, yeah, it's really, you got to be careful. Very risky.
Exactly.
Very risky.
Yeah. That's like JP Morgan and BlackRock, and, even Larry Fink of BlackRock has alluded that there's an XRP ETF coming for BlackRock. Like, they were asked about it. He was like, I can't talk about that. You don't want to know about that anyway. Like, definitely, there's something there. And Brad Garlinghouse, the head of Ripple, has also said, pretty much it's inevitable that that's going to be coming. So yeah, JP Morgan, who is it? Jamie Dimon of JP Morgan, and they're all poo-pooing crypto on one end while they're investing behind the scenes. And then when they're ready, I think we said this last time, but when they have their fill, then it'll be ready for them to tell everyone, now it's a great investment. Come on in.
Yep. And then they ride the wave, which really the first thing you learn when you're a new stockbroker is you got it's called front running. You can't know that people are going to buy stuff or put news out to buy stuff, and then you go buy it first and you just catch the wave.
Yeah.
People that, which is what some of the wonderful elected officials do, when they know a law is going to go into effect, and then they buy Visa, and
it's like a form of insider trading in a way.
Yeah. And they were, and that, which is why I guess people who make 100,000 a year in the government are worth 250 million. That don't, it don't really jive, but hey.
Yeah.
And
then on that note too, Elizabeth Warren, she's been a big, push against crypto, and she's been probably one of the biggest individuals who's been trying to basically kill crypto in general. Her seat for Senate is being challenged right now by a guy named John Deaton, and John Deaton, he's a big crypto guy, but a big XRP guy. And he was the one, I don't know if you know about this either, but during the Ripple SEC case, he countersued the SEC on behalf, it was a class action lawsuit from XRP holders. And he got like 70,000, like 70K XRP holders to sign up. And I don't know what happened to that lawsuit, like where it's at now, but he is super big XRP guy. So if he replaces Warren's seat in Massachusetts for Senate, it would just be like a complete flip of the switch there.
Yeah, and that's what we just need, people who are willing to speak about it on the bigger stage. So it'll start to at least get in people's fields of what perception of what's out there and what the real deal is. Because once it's out there, the seed gets planted, and then all of a sudden it seems like you start hearing more about that thing. I never see Maseratis. I want to go buy one, or I like them, and then all of a sudden you go drive around, and you're like, there's one. You're like, where were they all before this? It's just how the brain works.
Yeah.
But so it is good getting that out there. So just to kind of move into how one of the ways you can use crypto
Mhm.
is with these passive income sources. And last show, you kind of went through some of them: the staking, the lending, liquidity pools, yield farming, and stuff. But when people hear smart contracts or they and staking as a are the two synonymous? Are because that's
Mhm.
kind of a they if they got a smart contract, that means that they're staking. Um, and so there's a lot of kind of misconceptions because sometimes there are two different things, but essentially it's the same thing, or it's not, but they think it is. And so I don't want anyone to kind of step on a landmine because they're thinking it's the same thing as the other. So and especially specifically with staking, or and if there's maybe a quick run through of some of the others, but since this is for Anna, when she listens, she'll hear this. So when it specifically with staking, is it a smart contract or is it just staking? And that's what we're looking at. That's what she needs to look at.
Yeah. So let me give the kind of context for what a smart contract is first. So a smart
Mhm.
contract is, in my understanding, it's any kind of transaction that is more complex than just going A to B, right? So if I send you some crypto, that's just going to A to B, me to you, that's just a normal transaction. Smart contracts bring in other forms of contracts, like if you were to have some kind of decentralized loan, right? That's like a big topic that's getting worked on right now. Nobody's really perfected it yet, but a lot
Mhm.
of different crypto projects are working on these decentralized loans where basically you could take your collateral, your crypto bag, your portfolio, and you could pull out a certain percentage of your portfolio, like maybe 50%, and you're able to use that as a decentralized loan. You pull it out as like
Mhm.
a stable coin. Actually, Coinbase, they're not a crypto, but they're an exchange for cryptos. I believe they have a technology like this, but on the blockchain, that would be an example of a smart contract, right? It's something more
Mhm.
complicated than just going A to B. I believe staking is considered a smart contract.
Mhm.
But like smart contracts aren't something you need to focus on. Like it's just a background technology thing. So for the
Okay.
questioner who asking about this, you don't need to go like find a smart contractor. It's not like that. Staking, I believe, is considered smart contract technology, but it's a whole umbrella of other crypto transactions that are more complicated than just sending money from A to B. So
Okay.
staking specifically is like what you're doing is, and we go super in depth into this in Conscious Crypto Academy.
Mhm.
But basically, there's different kinds of consensus mechanisms for different blockchains. So most people have heard of crypto mining, right? Like people mining Bitcoin.
Mhm.
That is something called proof of work. That was the original crypto consensus mechanism, meaning people are buying these mining rigs. They're like computers. They're running these intense algorithms. They're sucking a lot of energy, but it is validating the consensus. It's how the nodes find validation of the contract.
Mm.
Now, proof of stake was the kind of second generation of consensus for distributed ledgers or cryptocurrency. And it takes away the need for mining. So Ethereum is the best example of a project that went from being proof of work and then they transitioned to proof of stake about like a year and a half ago or something like that. So
Mm.
Ethereum used to have mining. It was like Bitcoin, and then they transitioned to proof of stake, and now there's no more mining. It's greener. You don't have to suck all this energy. And then in proof of stake, the way that it goes about the consensus is by essentially people will stake their coins. Holders will stake their coins to the network, so they give up. They temporarily give up ownership essentially of their crypto. So it leaves their wallet and it goes to the cloud, basically to the network. And it's used by the network to then validate transactions and secure the
Okay.
network. So basically, and I know that's complicated and there's more tech behind that. And even I don't
Mhm.
understand the full depths because that's like developer coding stuff there. But basically, the more currency that is staked to the network through staking, the more secure, the more robust, the more safe the network is. So it encourages people to do that by providing them a percentage reward for doing the staking. And so that's how you make this passive income, by doing staking. And for us, that just looks like, you go into your wallet on your phone or whatever, you stake your Ethereum, you stake your Corium, you stake your whatever, and then you get a certain percentage back. And each one works a little differently. And like one of the reasons why I like Corium for staking over Ethereum and some of these other ones is that a lot of these proof of stake coins, they call it like a locking period, where you'll have to lock your coins where you can't touch them, you can't sell them, you can't use them. Sometimes you have to lock it for 30, 60, 90 days, depending on how much you want to get back in return. And so you're saying, okay, I'm going to put this there for 30 days and I can't touch it until 30 days is up.
A CD.
It's what?
Like a CD.
Like a
CD, like a time deposit. You have a,
yeah, yeah. So like the problem is that then if you need it, you can't get to it, right?
Right.
So that's why I'm not a huge fan of those. But like with Corium, you can unstake at any time.
Oh, wow.
The only caveat is there's a 1 week unstaking period. So you can unstake it whenever. You don't have to lock it up for 3 months, but you unstake, you have to wait a week, and then you get your coins back. And that's just so that it keeps the network secure and it's not like super volatile with how secure the network is at any moment. So hopefully, I was a bit technical. But hopefully
and also for the 1 week, what percentage are you making with Corium? To wait the 1 week for that percentage is amazing. The fact that you can have that, where you can move in and out of it, kind of quickly, because if you start seeing, that thing really start to jet and then starts to come down and you want to sell, but you're staking it in some of those other ones. And you're kind of stuck, but Corium provides a really good rate. And so that 1 week is really, the trade-off, it's a no-brainer, really.
Yeah.
With it,
right now, Corium is like 25% APY, which can then be compounded to be greater. So here's a fun little thing I learned just a couple months ago. The difference between, I might reverse this by accident, but maybe you'll be able to correct me here, but APR versus APY, annual percentage rate versus annual percentage yield. APR, I think, is the flat rate. So 25% would be the APR. If you were to just claim your rewards once a year, you get 25%. But what's cool about Corium and other cryptos, in this circumstance, you can go and claim your rewards every day if you wanted, 10 times a day if you wanted. And the more that you claim it, the more it's compounding, because if you're just recompounding those rewards instead of spending them, you're working on a larger and larger pot every time. Right. And so it's like, if it's like an equation, it's like X squared, but X is increasing every time, right? So then the APY, the yield, could end up being, maybe 30% or something.
Yeah. So what you do, let's say on $100, if you're making, 10%, right? So in the first day whenever you're taking it, right? So you make $110, right? Because 10%, right?
Yeah.
So then when you make 10% again, you're not making it on your original 100, you're making it on the 110, right? And that's how the compounding works. And what's really interesting is if you were to say you're playing golf and you tell somebody, hey, why don't we just play for, I don't know, a dime a hole, but every hole, let's just double it. And people go like, yeah, fine, it's a dime. Do the math, and you do 18 holes at a dime, but you double that dime each hole, and the 18th hole, you're up in the 7 figures.
Yeah.
In the millions. And if you start at hole 3 doing that, just missing 3. So look at it, instead of 18 holes, look at it as 18 years, right? So let's say you started it on hole 3. And so you didn't do the first 3 holes. So now on hole 4, you're going to do a dime and then double it. That number goes down to, say, like 100,000, something like that. It's a massive drop off. Those last few years are just massive, which that's why it's so important. Once you can get it, that compounding, if that's something that you can move into something like that, the power of that is through the roof. Or find a penny a day and double it every day. for 30 days, for 1 month, and see how much money you're worth after that 1 month. Just
Yeah.
doubling a penny a day. When you do the math, it's kind of fun to do, but
Yeah.
yeah, that is you're 100% correct. That you keep getting that interest on a bigger and bigger pool of money, and over time, it just that's where the real power comes in. When you see like UPS drivers.
Mhm.
That there was one story I think Tony Robbins was telling. The guy had 60 million when he retired in a retirement plan, and it was because of he had 30, 40 years of working there of compounding interest at whatever rate it was, and it just kept compounding. And those last 5 years or whatever it was, that's where the bulk of it was made. And so he goes, I'm not telling everyone to go be a UPS driver.
Yeah.
That's not, because people going, oh, how much does UPS guys make? And it's like, no, it's a normal job. It's a hardworking, good job. God bless. But he's about the compounding. And, people still were missing the point because they're saying, how can I be a UPS driver?
Yeah.
He's saying anybody can do it, but this is how it works. And so that was the first time I heard about it like that, when he was talking about it like that. So it's a powerful thing. Now, let me ask you,
real quick, I think that technology is going to expand to non-crypto investors because, and tying in the smart contract thing real quick.
okay.
And I forget, maybe we talked about this briefly last time, but I think in the near future, payroll will be through crypto and smart contracts, right?
That's interesting.
Yeah. So people will, maybe a couple years from now, maybe it'll happen slowly, maybe it'll happen suddenly, but instead of waiting for a check every 2 weeks or whatever it is, direct deposit or whatever, you're going to be able to look at your app for your work, and in real time, you're going to see yourself getting paid. Like, here's $1, here's $1, here's $1 in real time. And then I'm assuming you're going to be able to go and utilize certain crypto staking technologies to then stake your income in whatever form, somehow generate passive income using crypto. And then that compounding effect then now applies to your normal income from work, which is a game changer for the average person.
That's right. That's right. What a raise to give. That's essentially giving yourself a massive raise rather than getting extra, 5 cents per hour.
Yep.
You put it into something like that, and you're talking. That's a massive raise. That's a game changer for families. That would be amazing. Is that what would you think as far as how long it would take for a technology like that to come around?
I feel like in the next 5-10 years, I think we'll start seeing that on a more widespread level. I'm sure it's already happening in certain small cases right now, but I haven't really heard about it. But I mean, the technology's there, so it's just like someone's just got to build it, right?
They got it, the bridge, right?
Yeah.
From that into like a payroll company, and maybe one of the big payroll companies will move into it, like an ADP or something. Who knows?
Yeah. Especially like XRP, Stronghold XLM, if they get really integrated into the existing kind of structure of things, it doesn't even have to change for the average person. Like, your bank will just start using these cryptos in the background, and you might not even know it, but all of a sudden you're using crypto technology by using your bank account. And if you had, say, invested in that technology before that happens, then you could have a fat, check off of that basically. But I think it's something that's going to be inevitable, whether or not you invest in crypto or not. Everyone will be using crypto for elections, for work, there's so many applications of blockchain that go beyond just money.
That's the Stronghold that you were talking about, right? They were talking, is that the technology with the election?
Well, so they maybe they might. I did make a post that was a repost of theirs that was kind of alluding, because they sent an email out basically that was talking about fortifying elections with blockchain technology. And they don't have a specific service for that right now, but it just made me think, like, why would they be talking about this if it's not something that they're working on in some regard? And I know in 2020, I think it was, there was a company or a group called Voatz, VOATZ, that was researching with MIT using XRP for elections, for presidential elections. Yeah, so it's something that's, I'm sure, being worked on in the background and probably under NDAs and things like that.
Yeah, I wonder if it's just the speed that XRP brings, to the table with just transactional.
Yeah,
stuff,
exactly.
um,
And
but
right now
you know,
they're burning ballots in it's all over the news in multiple places. Like people are throwing arsonists or burning the ballot boxes, right, with the early voting. So
yeah,
I know a lot of people are like, well, the most secure way to do voting is going to be ballots no matter what. But I think if we can refine the technology a little bit, blockchain voting will be way more productive and efficient and safe than physical ballots and more
yeah.
futuristic. It's kind of an old, you know,
Yeah, and also, what's nice is if we can do that and you do it in a day, right? It has the speed, the technology, the security to get it done in a day, where it's not like, yep, all the votes are in, and in a week we'll have the results, and it's like we have computer systems and counting and recounting and whatever they do, but it shouldn't take that long. Even countries that are nowhere near evolved as we are, here as far as technology wise and what we can really do.
yeah.
Um, they get their elections done in a day.
Mhm.
They know who it is. They're none of this BS that happens. So
Yeah.
it'll be nice to have that move and just encompass everything. And when you talk about XRP, that Ripple platform should really go into the banking system, like we were talking about, right?
Mhm.
And do the way where you're wiring funds cross country in an instant and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So to move into their payroll, yeah, like you said, it should be very, very seamless once that technology is there. Is just building bridges out to the different areas of whether it's banking, shipping, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
I, so where but I think that that first domino has to fall. Once that starts, I feel like it's game over for the old system. It's the new. This is how we are going to move forward.
Mhm.
Once that first domino falls and it comes out and everyone's just like, this is so easy, quick, and cheap. We're
Yeah.
not getting like reamed, and there's all these big processes that have to take place. So I think that's exciting around the bend. What's
Mhm.
coming around?
And it
Um,
helps everybody. Like it helps. I mean, we're talking about the application of like big money banks, governments, but it'll help the little guy, even
mhm.
like immigrant families being able to send money back to their home country, to their family without having to jump through all these hoops of the banks and all that BS to just be able to
Yeah,
get on your phone and, be able to do something like PayPal, but you don't have to work with that third party centralized group and all their
mhm.
restrictions. Boom, boom, you got the money. And then it's going to make life so much easier.
Yeah, yeah. That'll be nice. And again, like you said, from A to Z, I think it does. It encompasses everybody. Everyone will be able to take advantage of it. And
Yeah.
where that I haven't thought of that application, which is that's an awesome one. With to get some money back to their families if they're here working.
I saw them
Um,
advertising that. That's why I say that. Or there was a Ripple ad one time that showed that where they were kind of, showing the application for the average person.
You see, and that's what I mean about once it gets out into your perception, right, into your field. That's where I think it's smart. What Stronghold, not necessarily where they're saying they're guaranteeing none of that stuff, but they're saying that this is where the technology can go, and
Mhm.
that now that's out in the ether, and that's something that we could, and once that starts to happen, it feels like as people want that and look forward to it, and they're working on the technology for some reason. It seems to come to fruition a lot of those things when it's out and we can actually perceive that this could help
Yeah.
this could help elections, this could help
Yeah.
so I think that's a smart way to do things is get it you have to have the courage, the cajones, to get it out there and speak it and stand behind your conviction, because once it's out there will be people that are going to follow if it makes sense, and this does.
And look how
you know
fast like the payment industry's changed already in the last 5-10 years. With we had those little square things for a while,
yeah,
but now within like 2-3 years, everybody has those Clover screens, right?
yeah,
You go to a restaurant, you go anywhere, you're paying for that. They flip the screen around, and they ask for a tip, that whole thing.
yeah.
That
I would just going to ask you a question.
yeah, just one question real quick, like, don't worry about
Like I bought a pack of gum.
it. But like that came so quickly, right? Like that,
Yeah.
it's like those were just everywhere all of a sudden, within like a couple years. So I feel like with Stronghold and XRP, but particularly Stronghold with the retail payments, I think
Mhm.
that could take over the retail payments super quick in the same regard,
Yeah.
especially because what they're introducing with Stronghold is like reward systems. So like we were talking about rewards with getting paid with smart contracts on your phone in real time and compounding that. But now
Mhm.
imagine if you get cash back and rewards that you can stake and things like that just by buying things. Like no matter, as long as it's using, say, Stronghold, and you're buying something and it's using that system, you'll get a little kickback for it. And then it just, the possibilities really open up.
Right, and then that kickback gets put into something where it's going to compound interest, and before you know it, you have these little pieces of money from here, all going into a pile, making a nice interest rate compounded. And that's what it's about. It's about saving where you can and making enough in interest, so that cycle 2 money is what you're spending on.
Right.
You're not spending that cycle 1, but you're continuing to grow. And and the options really could be endless with the technology they have today and how we can build on it. I mean, and it, like you said, I think you're right though. I think it can happen really quickly like that. I think we can start to see things move really quickly.
Yeah.
Do you know? So I just was also saw, and I know this has been especially from when I was selling gold and silver and stuff. This CDBC.
Oh yeah, CBDC. Yep.
CBDC, and so that central bank digital currency, right? Yep. So now which is again, like we said last, it's the counter opposite of what crypto is. That's not a centralized anything. So it's a total opposite. But that being said, we are 95% digital now anyway, right? We never, no one really carries cash, so we're always using our cards. But I just was looking. So now we have the BRICS nations, which is a massive swath of the countries out there are getting into BRICS or in BRICS already, right? There's a lot of them now. Yeah. But they were just saying that China is creating a CBDC of the yuan, and since they're part of BRICS, there are some people out there that were that what they're getting a little nervous, asking is, is there any way, since China, like, because they know that they own a lot of farmland here and all the things that have happened, maybe someone even took money from that, who knows if someone got bribed by them or whatever. But if that did happen, can we be under the regime of their central bank digital currency?
I mean, anything's possible, like if they took over the US, worst case scenario, then like, sure, they could implement whatever they wanted here. But at the same time, I know BRICS is talking about using crypto and kind of dancing around XRP. I don't know if they've ever officially said it, but it's kind of like they're alluding to it. And I think Russia might have referenced XRP a couple times in some internal documents they had. Doing studies for settlement.
Yeah, once we took them off the Swift, that SWIFT system, it was once they started to back the ruble with gold and they started to use it instead of the dollar with certain purchases and stuff like that, and it went down the road, and that's when they started to mention XRP, and then some banks started to mention it as far as taking payments with XRP.
Yeah, so like maybe who knows what China and Russia and BRICS are going to do with their own national currencies, but I feel like with BRICS there will be their individual national currencies. They might be CBDCs, they might not be. Hopefully not. But then there's going to be most likely a decentralized crypto that connects all of them, that none of them control, and that's the advantage of having a crypto. Essentially become the new, maybe unofficial, indirect world reserve currency, in the sense that it's the currency that everybody, will accept. And because no one country owns it, we're kind of the closest country to owning. I mean, Ripple's an American company. Technically, XRP and Ripple are not the same thing, right? Because Ripple's a private company, XRP is a public currency, but they're so intertwined. So, it could play out a lot of ways, but I've always felt like XRP is going to end up being the bridge between all of these different world powers, and that it's actually, in my opinion, it's going to kind of bring these world powers together in peace and help prevent like an economic World War III scenario.
Yeah, well, what you realize when you start to look into it, where we would be going, and I think it'll be a much rougher road if we can get like you said, and I would hope it would be XRP. I think, like you said, it levels the playing field worldwide, because what starts to happen is where the corruption could come in, or where using your currency like a cudgel and just hitting everyone over the head with it. You don't do what we say, sanctions, and we're the reserve currency, and so we can do that. And I mean, thank God we're not a government like some other ones that are around the world that could really use it to destroy people. But I'm sure we did some things, but when you look at it, I was thinking that as we, like what we did, we sanctioned Russia. They got off the SWIFT system. They couldn't use it no more. So now that's how they were sending money. So we put them in a position, and what did they do? They adjusted, and nothing really happened to them. They just kept moving forward. They backed it with gold and blah blah blah. And so and then as the BRICS started to say, why do we have to use the dollar, right? So now they're buying fuel from Saudi Arabia in the yuan, in the ruble, and they're not converting to a treasury or to the dollar. And so what starts to happen, if that happens too much, and the dollar ever gets toppled as the world currency, not only would throw us into a massive problem as far as economically in this country, but instead of it happening that way, where it gets brutal, where the sanctions we put on can be brutal, and then if the dollar topples, it can be brutal, and the people who are going to be affected are going to be people like us. Seems like that we take the brunt of it, right? Like the 95% of the average people, the masses, we take the brunt of it. But I think if it can move into XRP or a system like that, where it's a level playing field throughout, and that means I can't use the dollar as a cudgel, you can't use your currency as a cudgel, and that means that we have to work with each other in the right way. Or how about everyone just work on their own country and do what they have to do? And when we do need to work with each other, there's no one takes there's no advantage, because we have the currency. Whoever's the better negotiator, maybe the better negotiator, or whoever makes the best deal for their country at that time, that's who would win out. But as far as there's not an outside force like your currency being used as like a bat to crack someone in the head. Boom, just listen to us. So right. I think that would be. I mean, I think that would be the best, easiest, seamless way to move forward with the least amount of bloodshed. Kind of, economically speaking.
Yeah.
Bloodshed. That way. So I think that's and I think that's such a great point, again, because the people who are going to get hit with that are going to be the everyday people. So. So that's a really good point. So when it comes to the passive income, as with crypto, we are looking at it and saying it is definitely going to be a big part of the future for us, right? So it's going to become the mainstream. So what do you think happens to the either late adopters or the people who just don't adopt it because they just don't want to see it, and they continue to stay in, maybe in the markets, or in whatever thing that they're doing that's going to be considered an antiquated system or an old investing method.
Yeah.
How do you? I mean, I know you're not a psychic, but I'm just like, what would you think? How do you think that works?
It'll be like people who tried to pretend the internet wasn't gonna be successful, like people who stuck to their, I don't know, fax machines, or like whatever technology for whatever application was being used, the internet ended up taking over. But I think just like the internet, it's going to permeate all aspects of society. And it's not that people who don't invest now are going to suffer. I don't think that. I don't think it's going to, like, this new technology will, I believe, positively affect everybody eventually, even if you don't invest it, even if you never think about it. Just like the internet, it's going to come into our lives, and it's going to make things easier in certain ways. And hopefully, unlike the internet, the internet brought some negative things as well, but I think this is a little different in that respect. But I think, it's going to reward those early adopters like us, who have the vision and the intuitive sense, or whatever you want to call it, to see the opportunity and invest in it. And the people who don't, it's going to help them eventually too. But
Mhm.
the reward will be greater for the people who had the initiative to take action on seeing the opportunity.
Yeah.
There's something else I was going to say with that I'm brain farting on. I don't remember right now, but if I think of it, I'll let you know.
Yeah, yeah. Let me know. So yeah, and you want to know, and really, and you know, in going through some of the bad markets, you know, and you know, being in the you know, the market investment, you know, the financial advisor since the '90s,
Hmm.
seeing the good times and the bad times, and what every time what happens is the not only do the early adopters make, you know, the lion's share of the profits, but um, the, there's so much to be said about the stress that you go through when you're inside. Going through the collapse from in '08 to 11, being in it as a financial advisor every day was so massively stressful. And that was as an advisor, you know, because you're trying to talk to people, but this is like nothing we ever seen. So it's like, you know, I never saw that before. So I was
Yeah.
going, how do I tell people, you know, that this is going to be okay? Because
Yeah.
at
Right.
some
Yeah.
point you start to go like, I don't even know. What do I tell them? You know,
Yeah.
but the stress that they were going through, because that, you know, you're down 40, 50% and you just can't sell out. I mean, what do? You just hope, and you're holding on, you're crossing your fingers, and people are crying at your desk. And you, as you're watching this, and I'm not saying we knew what happened, but when history teaches you a lesson,
Mhm.
but then you don't take the lesson and then make decisions moving forward, that's where the problem comes in. Because, you know, like now, if you're not moving into the you know, the precious metal and the crypto and stuff like that, and again, just for a portion of it, and we could always talk about what portion you should do, and I think it's really up to what you want to do for your portfolio and where your expertise, you know, how your experience. But you know, once you saw what happened in, you know, in '08 and what's going on now, you see we're doing things in a much worse way. We're getting hit on so many more different fronts. It's just not the real estate market and you know, the CMO investments and all, and you know what happened back then.
Yeah.
But we're in so many different things that America really is in the most fragile state it's ever been in. Uh, not to you know, what you can't do is, once things do collapse, you can't go like, oh, I didn't know, and we go, oh, you didn't know, okay, well, here's all your money back, even though it's that don't work that way. You're going to go through a very rocky road. So ignorance or that naivety cannot be an excuse why you're not doing something moving forward. And again, if history teaches you a lesson, take the lesson and move forward. Which is why, again, we're getting the word out there, I think, is vital moving forward. And I think, you know, what you do with your program is such a massive component to help as many people as we can move forward, because they have to. You have to. This is a time to take action, not
Mhm.
to sit and wait. And
Yeah.
so, you know, yeah. So I think there is a lot to that state of mind that people are in, man.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
I'm glad you brought that up because I didn't quite touch on that, like the risk of not investing in these projects. Like I was saying, you know, eventually it's going to affect everyone in a positive way, even if you don't
Mhm.
invest. But you're right, there is a potential for that middle period in the next couple years where there could be another 2008 scenario or far worse. You
Mhm.
know, God forbid the dollar does collapse or something like that. I mean, it already kind of is, but that's a whole nother conversation by itself
Yeah.
too. But the risk management of, you know, hedging your bets and kind of putting some money in crypto, even if you're not super into it, just to kind of mitigate the risk of some crazy 2008 scenario happening on steroids,
Hmm.
black swan event. Yeah, like I think there's actually been several like spiritual prophets, psychic kind of people who, like, for instance, the guy who predicted the Trump shooting in the ear. Did you see that guy?
Yeah, you told me about it. That was crazy.
Yeah, yeah. And then so he got, for people who haven't heard this yet, 3 months before the assassination attempt, he predicted he would get shot, that T would get shot in the ear, that he would fall to the ground, and that he would have this huge rebirth, spiritual rebirth moment while he was on the ground and the bullets are flying over him. And it's exactly what happened, right? Like the picture and everything. So he also said that XRP, that, you know, God told him XRP was going to be something that was going to be a huge investment in the near future, and that it would save a lot of people from this crazy economic collapse that was on the horizon. And that guy seems to be pretty convinced that that is inevitable, that the collapse is coming no matter what, and that it's just going to be a storm we're going to have to weather, but that the people who have, you know, listened, who have had the intuition, who have had the foresight, and then taken action to invest in these projects, they're going to be able to weather that storm a lot more easily than the people who didn't do that. And I've heard that from tons of other like psychic, intuitive, spiritual people as well. Like it's everywhere.
Yeah, you know, there's a guy that I listen to from time to time, and I got to say he was spot on. He the year before Silicon Valley Bank went out, he said between March and May, a bank was going to go out, and then some foreign banks would follow. And then, you know, what happened with Credit Suisse and so on. And so that struck me because he never gave timing before like that. Like he goes, I don't like doing that. I don't like people do that because things could change with choices people make. And but he gave it like a time that 3 months. And I heard, and then someone else that, you know, we listened to said the same thing. I was like, oh wow. So I always kept it in mind. And then that happened. And so what the other thing he also said now that he thinks through October, you know, as October comes to an end, it's going to start to get very bumpy. And he thinks it's through 2025, it will be until June. And then he thinks that from June on, since half the year of 25, that's when the rebuilding process has to take place.
I can see that.
He was saying, yeah, it's going to take us to our knees. And, but he said, but we will come out of it, and we will rebuild, because ultimately America is not the government. America is us. And we have, you know, whatever we have inside of us, we will fight for it, and we'll come together and do what we have to do, which I love a hopeful message. And that's what I'll always hang my hat on. I'm not really a negative guy, but yeah, so I heard some of the same things, but he really put a kind of fine point on it as far as timing. So I think October has already been a little crazy when you hear about, you know, when you see some of the things that are going on as far as celebrity and some of the things we're hearing in the news and things coming to light. And so the first thing I thought was, no way he called this again, that it's going to get crazy come October. And now it's getting crazy with people getting, you know, in trouble. So we'll see. I know we're running late. I could talk to you for literally 4 days straight.
Jace, it's good. I'm flexible right now. I don't have a time limit at the moment, so.
All right, cool. So you know what? But what I wanted to get in, as we'll wind up in a bit, is when it comes to, you know, staking it, or not even staking is part of it. That passive income. So we're looking at that would be considered more long term, right? Like that more of a long term. How do you distinguish between that staking, but or and not fall into a trap where you're going into a passive income situation, and you think it's going to be long term, but really it's more it's like a hype, where there's a hype behind maybe a coin, but it's really, so you're taking on a lot of risk thinking it's a long term hold. And the longer you don't look at it, or the longer you think you hold, is the more risk you're taking on, because it's an empty vessel. It's not like, you know what I mean? So how do you distinguish, and what would someone look for if they're looking to do that and go, like, I'm going to do this, guys, I'm going to long term, it's going to be passive income, and not fall into that trap? Like, what would you?
Yeah, that's a good question. That's a good question, because there is, like we were saying earlier, there's thousands of cryptos. It's like everybody and their mom has some project that they're like, hey, you know, this is my friends or my son's or project, or, you know, it's going to be the next best thing. And I agree with Brad Garlinghouse of Ripple, where he said he thinks 99% of all cryptos are going to go away in the next 5 years or so. And so there's only going to be a handful, like maybe a dozen, 2 dozen, under 100 probably, even that's a lot, that are going to stick around. And, you know, it basically comes down to what can do the job, its specific job, the best. And the ones that don't do it as well as the other ones, they're going to fade away into obscurity.
Mhm.
So for me, what I look for is, um, well, first I kind of go off my intuitive feeling off of that's what initially draws me to it. And then when it feels like, okay, there's something to that, I start doing a bunch of research on it. And what I'm looking for is kind of where's the money going, where are the
Mhm.
connections, who is tied to what, what are the CEOs, what is the team tied to, all that kind of stuff. Um, Specifically, I like to look because Ripple has already kind of passed my check in that regard, and I feel like
Yeah.
they're going to be one of the big ones, if not
Players.
the biggest, right, player. I look at where Ripple is investing money because to me that signals, okay, they trust this group,
That's
so
right, right.
that's
That's
probably a good
smart.
play, right? So it's
Smart. Very
follow
smart.
the money, but follow the money in the positive sense instead of the negative sense.
That's right.
So like all the projects that we've talked about that we do in Conscious Crypto Academy, uh, pretty much all of them have funding from Ripple in one form or another, or have some kind of cross connection with the teams. So Solo, Corium, Stronghold, XLM, they're all connected to Ripple and XRP in one way or another. And for me as well, it's the payment cryptos, the payment infrastructure cryptos that I think are going to be the biggest winners at the end of the day, with the biggest return of investment because they're going for the biggest problems. They're solving the
Mm.
multi-trillion, maybe multi-quadrillion dollar problems worldwide. So that's what I look for. And then I would just say, I'm careful with more obscure projects that don't have those connections. So I'll still look into them. There's still obviously opportunity outside of that bubble that I'm talking about, but
Right.
it's within that sphere of influence that I think it's got the most ripe opportunity with the least amount of risk for the most amount of return potential.
Yeah, and I think really, a good way, which as you were talking, it made me think because what you said last time kind of stuck in my head, and I've been using the word a lot now, since 2 weeks ago, is the utility of it. If there's a utility to it, right?
Mhm.
That's the word,
Yep.
that right. If they,
Yep.
so we know that's a system that they have a utility because it's going to be used for something. It's not, kind of a vaporous,
Yeah.
kind of little shit, thing that don't mean much.
Yeah.
But it has a good utility that we know, or not that we know, but we have a good idea. Like, wow, this is going to move forward. And one thing that you're 100% correct, and this will run through most any area of your life, no matter what you do. Your reward
Mhm.
in life comes with how many people you can bring value to, or how
Mhm.
much value you bring to the market is how much reward you get. So if someone helps 10 people, they may make A. You
Right.
help 100 people, you're going to make, you'll make F. You'll make you'll make way more. And so the more people you're doing, so the payment system, everybody needs a bank account or has or an account, a financial account in some regard to
Yep.
make payments, help people, help their families out, buy stuff, get food, whatever it may be. So that it's 100% correct that that's a massive amount of people that will be helped, which is why I do strongly believe that I think Ripple is set up to really, that whole platform is set up to
Mhm.
just
Yeah.
take off. Yeah,
And
and that's that reason.
one of their mottos along that line is to bank the unbanked, is what they say. So even though the kind of haters of Ripple and XRP will say they're the banking crypto, we don't want the banks to be involved with crypto at all. Like, that's the kind of Bitcoin argument, like down with the whole system altogether, Bitcoin for everything, right?
Mhm.
That's their argument. And they
Right,
also say, you don't need gold, you got Bitcoin. Bitcoin is better than gold. And
right,
I
right.
don't agree with that, right? As I'm sure you don't either. Gold still has value. And that's why I like XRP, because it provides value to everything that it touches and interacts with. So it's
Uh-huh.
it's not there to replace anything else except maybe the paradigm. But like on a technology level, it's not replacing other currencies, it's connecting them and creating more value between everything else that already has value to us. Um, and they're the banking the unbanked is a big part of that, because even though they're working with the banks, because I think ultimately what they're doing is they're trying to bring everybody into this new paradigm, into this new system,
Mhm.
whether you're a little guy, like, small family, average person, or if you're a big bank government, like they're trying to get everybody. And so like one of the things too was David Schwartz, who was the technical engineer for XRP, who also was a former NSA employee, which there's a, theories about that, and like, the NSA versus the other three-letter agencies and the kind of internal beef going on there. But he said that he created it because he got banned from PayPal for being labeled some kind of domestic terrorist for some, some stupid thing. He got put on some list, and he's like, we need to provide financial services to the people who were being censored by their own governments and their own banks and everything. So even though they're working with the banks, they're also, it's to free everybody from that system. And the banks, they have a lot of power. They have had a lot of power, but they're going to need to come over to this new system. This, you call it quantum financial system or whatever you want to call it, but they're going to need to be a part of that if they want to survive. So it's, I see Ripple going to these banks as being like, hey, if you guys want to stick around, if you want to be a part of the new world and the new economy, you're going to have to come over to this system. And you're also
sign the dotted line.
Yeah, exactly. Sign here. And I think too, that's where the banks are going to have to provide new services to people. Like, I think last time I gave the example of the gold thing, right? Where you take a bar of gold to your bank and you can send a bar of gold across the planet. So like the banks are going to have to go back to being real reserves. No more fractional reserve banking, no more quantitative easing, all that stuff. They're going to have to be more authentic if they want to survive.
Yeah, and I think some of the banks when they were moving to like that Basel III and that ISO 2021 or 2020, I forgot what 2023.
200-22.
Yeah. So when they were all moving, they had to move in there and be compliant with that. You had and they were saying that they couldn't just loan out 97% of the money that's being deposited, and they could keep 3% in the reserves. They had to up that, and that's where Jamie Dimon had went to Congress. He was complaining about it, and I was just like, when you look at it and go, they weren't asking for like you to hold 50% of it. They were like saying double that to like 6%. He was making and it was like a big problem, which made me think, holy cow, the problem is very, very bad. And so, I think that when they have to when that fractional banking's out of there, and when you kind of level the playing field for the average person, that you actually become like a bank, and the bank just really becomes a conduit to get, where you're just going to maybe move things through.
Yeah.
That's where I think that once we get there, it'll be incredible. And when, one thing I think it is worth repeating from the last show is what you were saying is you have to take real custodial responsibility for your stuff, because if you're going to be your bank, if you're going to be your own bank or brokerage or depository, you can send this here and do all these things, and you want that freedom. You have to make sure you really take the responsibility for the security of it, and you can't do anything in a flippant way. And I'm sure the technologies will be there to help us out, and we'll move forward. But that's something I didn't think about until you said it, because I always think about coming from the banks and in the investment, kind of side of it, the amount of regulation and audits that get done all the time, and whether it's privacy of information or whatever it may be, or what files you could have, what information you could keep, whatever it may be, it is so frustratingly annoying how tight they are with that. That if you were going to be your own bank, and I'm sure that they'll have all these checks within the technology, but it is something to always mention. Always err on the side of being conservative or being safe. Don't be flippant, and all those things, which again, people think of common sense, but you know what? Common sense isn't so common, or you just don't think it'll happen. But you always want to make sure you do it in a very responsible way. And I think it's always worth mentioning, because ultimately that's your life, that's your family's well-being. So I thought that was a really good point you brought up, because I didn't even think about it that way. That, hey, listen, it's great to talk about being your own bank, and now you got some responsibility too with it, and which is good, because we all want to be sovereign. And so to do that, we got to take responsibility for ourselves, which is what we should have been doing for this whole time. But
with more power comes more responsibility from
Uncle Ben.
Yeah,
Uncle
exactly.
Ben, baby.
You had the wisdom.
Yes, that's right. That's right. So what I want to I'll end off in and just saying that I appreciate your information, and it's crazy. Although you know we're both co-hosts, but one of us just happens to be kind of brilliant, and younger and smarter, and better looking, the whole thing. So I tend to I ask him a ton of questions, but really. I don't even mean it to be that way. I hope it don't come off that way
Well,
as we're having a conversation,
I
because I
love
just want to pick your brain like continuously.
and I love talking to you because you're the only person I've met who is deep into this stuff, has a deep interest, but also has the roots that you do in the traditional world. So it's so validating to get your perspective on all of these
Mhm.
things and to hear you say, like, yeah, that makes sense to me. Like, and I've seen this, this, and this, and that adds up with this. And it's so validating because
Oh,
there's
good.
not a lot of those people in the traditional financial world are still struggling to see what's going on here. Financial advisors, especially, like, I don't know a single person who's told me that their financial advisor is recommending crypto. Like every single
Yeah.
financial advisor is like, don't touch that. Like, because
Yeah, they're not even recommending physical gold. And you want to know, that's one thing. I think financial advisors, one of the worst things that they could come up against is when I'm looking to roll somebody's IRA from a traditional investment to gold,
Mhm.
and I'm on the phone with our mutual customer, and they're on the phone and they're not recommending it, and they don't know that I was a financial advisor. And the amount of after I get going, and they're probably wondering, like, how does he know like so much of it? Why I'm not doing it? Because back in '08, like I took a hit too.
Mhm.
So did my dad. So did, and if I would have known, I would have advised people, hey, get physical gold at that time in 2008, because gold nearly tripled from '08 to 2011. So if you
Okay.
just had 25% of your portfolio in physical gold, you wouldn't have clocked the loss, because you would have made enough to combat that loss.
Yeah.
But with me, and I think with a lot of back then, I give grace to the FAs, the financial advisors, because it's more of a ignorance, because we're really trained just in the market investments. Like, I didn't realize if you wanted gold, I'd be like, all right, let's get an ETF for gold,
Mhm.
right? Let's get GLD or SLV, right? That's what you do,
Yeah.
because you keep your assets under management, because you make 1% a year on your assets under management. And who tells people, yeah, get money out of for me and go give it to someone else?
Mhm.
It's like not a it's a cognitive dissonance. But I really didn't know. But once I found out, then that's when everything changed for me.
Mhm.
So the problem I have is now, and where we're at now, and my customer, a customer will call me and go, yeah, I called my advisor and he said I really shouldn't do gold. It's very, very risky to do that. And
Mhm.
he's been my advisor for 20 years, so I trust him. Whatever. And so I go, well, let me ask you. In 2008, did he recommend that you at least move 25% into physical gold, into physical gold? And he was like, no. And I was like, well, because, and then I tell him what the performance was and how it could have protected them, right? And they were like, no. And I said, so what makes you think that he'll do it now?
Right.
And I said, even worse, I was a financial advisor at that time. And when I found out what happened, I moved over. It hit me so hard that people took a hit and I didn't know about it, that I left the business to move into selling gold, because I thought it was the right thing to do. But I'm not saying everyone has to follow my trend. All I'm saying is, why wouldn't you protect your customers by saying move some of it out, because it's not forever. Once the markets bottom out and you want to roll it back over and
Mhm.
buy the markets at a low when gold moved up, and you just level up, and that's how you create wealth. Why wouldn't they do that? And then when we're on the phone together with the FA, it's a I mean, it's like a almost it's I start to get like uncomfortable, because they just don't know what to say,
Mhm.
because they look like a real heel, because
Mhm.
you're putting them at risk. We went through '08, but you're making it, they're going to go through the same thing after they agree that we're in a really, a pretty precarious situation moving forward.
Yep.
And so, it's when you see those things happening, and that's like what you said, the FAs, never mind even crypto, which they can say whatever, it's newer or whatever, but gold has been right. It's literally been a storage of wealth, because it's not an invest. We can't, like I said, we couldn't even call it an investment. It's a store of wealth
Mhm.
that it kind of holds its purchasing power.
Right.
That's what it is. And so it's a great way to, for just the more store of wealth you had, that back in the old days, that was your status, right? And so
And it's basically
it
the
goes,
world's oldest currency. Like it's going to have
yeah,
value forever.
yeah, and it's crazy when you hear about it, but when the financial advisors, like you said, they're so bogged down in everything, and some of them I just say, listen, if there's an ignorance there, well, now you're being willfully ignorant. That's a
Mhm.
problem. I said that's number one. Number two, which is I hope this is not it, but there's a malicious intent there because they're physically not recommending to you because they want to keep 1% of your assets while you're losing 50% or more of what you worked your whole life for, and your retirement's going to get hit.
Yeah.
And so,
That's
it just, yeah. So it is important to get the information out there, man. And really, my wife always says, she's like, I don't know how you do it. You keep 1 foot in the 3D and 1 foot in the 5D, or what, the way she says it.
yeah.
But she was like, it must drive you crazy because, it's a weird kind of dichotomy. You
Yeah.
try to be a little bit more high vibe and talk to you, but then sometimes you got to get a little down and dirty on the phone with financial advisors because they're not lambs. Financial advisors, they're
Mhm.
kind of lions, and so you can't go high vibe at them because they'll come right at you. So it's kind of like, that's
Yeah.
how it is on the phone, and it's whoever wins wins. But and ultimately, I feel like I'm doing the thing for the right reason. So I feel like I will never give up. Like it's going to be very hard to knock me off the hill because I feel like I'm in the right and you're really doing this for the wrong reason.
Yep.
So, it gives me, in my head, it gives me an edge. But yeah, it is when you see the two, and I'm glad I'm able to offer that. But I think that's why I think when we start to move to the next episodes, I think that it's going to, because most people know what it was, or they're, whatever generation they're in, they're either going to take a bunch from you, or they're going to see the kind of the timeline from me,
Mhm.
since I got Father Time has hit me pretty hard so far, so I've been around. And
Oh,
so,
dude.
it's
Great.
no, but it's good having the experience I have because I've worked in a lot of different areas within it. So, but I
Yeah.
think that, and showing the difference, I think will be huge. And I think all roads again lead to the program that you have out and the evolution of it and what you're trying to do to change that what you're it's going to evolve into just a better program and a better program and a better program. And I think that's going to be the momentum shift that we start to see when more and more people get in it. And when you tell me there's so many people that want to learn, that's when I know that we're doing our job the right way, because that's it. That's the victory lap that I'll take. That'll
Yeah.
be a good one.
I love that. I felt
So yeah,
validated on that too, that, this is the right track for, helping people in this area right now when, Trump released that World Liberty Financial product or suite recently, and they did a
hmm
big X Spaces with Junior in there, and he was the one leading it. And he was saying like, we need more people teaching this stuff because
yeah,
this technology is so different than what people are used to, even though it is liberating and freeing. Like there's a learning curve, as we both know,
hmm
right? And he's like, we need more people teaching this. Like we need more education out there. And I'm like, well, that's what we're trying to do.
Hey, let me. Can you put the cryptos in an IRA?
So
Yeah,
they
right.
there are certain IRAs that certain cryptos can
So
be
you can
in,
put it.
but they're mostly Bitcoin and Ethereum. I haven't checked in like a good year and a half, but when I was looking,
Yeah,
there were very few that had XRP as an option.
that makes sense though. That makes sense because when we do it with gold, there's certain coins you can put in, physical coin. You can't put everything that you would sell on a cash basis. You
Yeah.
can't put everything into an IRA. So that makes sense that would run kind of similar there.
I've had people come to me though wanting to pay the fee to pull everything out of their
Yeah.
IRAs and their, retirement accounts, their 401ks and stuff, even though it's, was it like a 15-20% fee sometimes, something like that to pull it
Yeah,
out
it's
early?
if they're under 59 and a half, a 10% penalty, and then they would have to pay the tax on anything that wasn't taxed
Yeah. So,
during tax time.
like I'm not a financial advisor. You were though, but I can't technically advise people, but I'm like, hey,
Mhm.
if it's a 10% fee and it goes up double, like you've made your money back just double. And I'm looking at way more than double returns. Like we're looking at tens of thousands, if not
Yeah.
hundreds of percent.
And if they move into Corium, that's at a 25% passive income
There
rate,
you go.
right? And XRP is looking to move up. Yeah, that's because they did it. There were some people who were very adamant about they don't want to play games. They and you have to realize people who are like say my age in the 50s, when you get to a certain point. So when you're younger, you can take some risk, right? Because you want to. The more risk, the more reward. And if it comes down, I'll wait it out because you got the time.
Yeah.
But when you start getting closer to the retirement years, then you've got to get more conservative until a point where it's all preservation of what you've made.
Yeah.
And because that's where we're at. But so now people they're looking at it and saying like, I'd rather take the 10% hit off the bat, and even if they take say a federal tax that another 15% that withhold for me, whatever it may be. I'll take that because I'm not going to take another 40-50% hit and then wait 10 years, 12 years that I got to keep working to get it to make it grow back to just breaking even. Because people are under the misconception that if your portfolio goes down 50%, the market needs to go up 50% to break even. Not true. It needs to go up 100% to break even. Exactly. And so 100% gain is not so easy in the stock market. So, when you look at it, it's over years that happens. And so some people couldn't retire. Some people had to put off retiring. And then what happens is they retire, and a few months after they pass away because now they were going to retire at 70. Now they got to retire at 80, 85.
Yeah.
And they can't enjoy what they've done. And it's really because of this type of stuff that's happening. So so I think that this is the right time, right? Right space to be doing this. And, I'm very excited to see where this goes. But with that being said, I want anyone who sees this and looks at it, any comments you have, very open to any comments. But if you have any specific questions or anything like that, or that you want to hear about, be sure to leave them. I'll be checking on it and make sure that we do get any questions answered. And we appreciate anybody who's interested in this information. And once you start to learn, and you can start to, help one person out, that would be great, because that'll be a nice chain reaction. That if that starts to happen, which I think it will. And again, I'll put all the links in the description for Jace's program. And so as for right now, everyone have a great day. Be protective. God bless all you. And Jace, it was good to be with you. And I will talk to you next time. So take care, everybody. Thank you.
God bless everyone.
All right.